Welcome back to The World Today. U.S. President Joe Biden rolled out the red carpet for celebrities, lawmakers, and titans of industry at the White House's first state dinner in honor of visiting French President Emmanuel Macron. Mr. Macron has been in Washington since Tuesday for his second state visit to the U.S. since the French leader took office in 2017. Both of these have had many visits, of course, as international gatherings, but this is the longest time that they've spent time together in the United States. And then there is the crowning social event of a trip aimed at showing Biden's commitment to Washington's oldest ally, even as the two countries wrangle over how to handle Russia's war in Ukraine, subsidies for U.S. products, and other issues.
Tonight, we celebrate the enduring alliance between France and the United States, a partnership that's marked by so many firsts. France was our first ally, first country to fly the American flag after our revolution. And Frank hosted the first diplomatic post before, more than anything else, France has been our first friend. Today, we're still united by the greatest of causes: democracy, liberty, equality, opportunity, and freedom. We stand together against oppression and injustice. We stick up for one another and our democratic values to which Washington and Lafayette dedicated their lives. And we still strive to build a world that's worthy of our highest hopes and of our future, knowing that we can always, always count on one another as allies and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Please join me in raising our glasses, which neither one of us have. There you go. In raising our glasses. To President Macron and his wife Brigitte, to France, ladies and gentlemen, to the history that binds us and the values that still unite us, and to the future we're going to forge together. Vive la France, and God bless America.
In the meantime, former President Barack Obama visited Atlanta to rally Georgia voters in the second round of a tight U.S. Senate race that could determine whether Democrats obtain a 51 to 49 majority. For the second time in less than 2 years, U.S. Senate race in Georgia will go to a runoff, this time between Georgia's Democratic candidates, Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker, who is backed by former President Donald Trump. Now, unlike the last time, the vote will not determine whether President Joe Biden's Democrats hold control of the Senate, but they already secured enough seats in the midterm elections to maintain the razor-thin majority. Republicans won a narrow majority in the House of Representatives. A Walker win, however, would give national Republicans a boost, having seen their standing in the state of Georgia erode towards Democrats over the last few years. A Warnock victory could indicate the Democrats are making inroads in places where they've had difficulties gaining traction in the past.
Even though you made sure my campaign finished first, that doesn't matter if you don't dig even deeper, work even harder, build a movement that's even stronger, and deliver the victory for the people of Georgia on December 6th. Are you ready to win this election? And we've got to keep on showing up. We got to keep on voting. We cannot let up, my beloved, not even for one moment. We've got to keep our foot on the gas all the way to victory. Are you ready to win this election?
To other news out of the United States, the U.S. Appeals Court has ended a special master review of documents seized from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. A ruling is a win for the U.S. Department of Justice, which is probing if Mr. Trump took classified documents with him when he left the White House. The special master is an independent lawyer who decides if any of the records are covered under attorney-client or executive privilege. Meanwhile, the former president's defense lawyer is trying to assure jurors near the end of a criminal trial of Donald Trump's real estate company that the former U.S. president knew nothing about a greedy former senior executive's years-long tax fraud. Susan Nichelles, representing one unit of the Trump organization, pointed the finger at Allen Weisselberg, the company's longtime chief financial officer, in her closing argument to the 12-member jury in a New York State court in Manhattan. Nichelles also pinned blame on Donald Bender, an outside accountant with the firm Mazars USA, for turning a blind eye to Weisselberg's wrongdoing rather than blowing the whistle. Twitter on Friday, which is today, suspended Kanye West's account again, just 2 months after he was reinstated after its owner, Elon Musk, said he had violated the platform's rules prohibiting incitement to violence. Musk, who calls himself a free speech absolutist, had welcomed the return of the rapper, now known as Ye, to the platform in October. But according to Musk, Kanye again violated the rule against incitement to violence. This was in response to a Twitter user who said, "Elon, fix Kanye, please." West's account was suspended within an hour of Musk's post. Before suspending Ye's account, which had over 30 million followers, Twitter had restricted one of his tweets. Our Washington correspondent Maria Bird joins me now. Maria, I don't know how interested you are in this Ye story, but he's back in the news again, saying, all sorts of things again on Twitter and getting into trouble. Why do you think he keeps stoking the hornet's nest with his posts, especially on social media?
Social media platform that people use to, get their message across quickly. Now, whether or not his intentions, or what he's thinking or what he's going through, we all know that there's something challenged there. And so the real question is, how to manage him through that process. As you know, and as you've talked about before, he's lost, his Adidas deals. He's lost a tremendous amount of business partnerships and relationships as a result of some of these types of acts. And so Elon Musk really had no other choice. When you talk about, the imagery that he posted and what it has meant to so many Americans and people across the globe, that cannot be tolerated. Just as many other acts cannot be tolerated against any minority group or group in America, period. And so I think that we are in a time where it's not just trying to cancel individuals, but it's also about ensuring that individuals are respecting the cultural diversity of our country, and most importantly, respecting individuals and respecting people's past and history. And just as other minority groups would not want these types of imagery posted, I think that's, where Twitter has to stand. Many people have not always been a fan of Elon Musk's decisions over the past few months, but I think this is one that most Americans would support.
You can imagine, I know one American who's not supporting him right now is the former president, Donald Trump, whom he's spoken to before about his presidential plans, and he once wanted him to be his vice president. But speaking about Trump and, the keeping of those documents at the Mar-a-Lago residence, now that the special master is done reviewing the documents, what happens?
At this time, there's a very short window that former President Trump has to actually appeal this decision, 7 days. And so it's highly likely that these documentations will now be received by DOJ. They will be a part of the case. And this will, I think, expedite the process of being able to get to some sort of a resolution. We know that most of the September, the hearing, January 6 hearings, were really about trying to get to a place where understanding that President Trump is very liable for a lot of the actions that have happened in the U.S., especially as we talk about did he do things improper while in office? What was his role in the January 6 attacks? And so I think that we're now moving to a place where we'll be able to have the Department of Justice have access to the records. I know that they are looking to see how they can potentially, if there is going to be any cases brought before him or against him, any charges brought against him. And so I think that's going to probably be something we'll hear about, maybe not before the end of the calendar year, but definitely within the coming months.
And House Democrats also have documents regarding his tax returns. Will there be an investigation into that as well? Because we know they might or might not make that public.
Yes, because of the sensitivity of the Department of Justice work, even though those are two very separate branches of government, it is highly likely that we will not really see what's the investigation while it's occurring. Now, likely once they come up with a decision on what they plan to do or what their findings were, we will be notified about that. And the tax season is coming in here in the U.S. around January. It'll begin up until about April. So it's highly likely that we'll see some sort of report out of that before the end of the tax season. And as you mentioned, his expectations or desires to run for office, all of these items could heavily impact that.
Indeed. Maria, thanks again. And keep keeping your eyes close to the ground for us in Washington regarding all things American. We're still in the United States, though. Onlookers are flocking to glimpse the lava flowing from Hawaii's Mauna Loa, the world's largest active volcano, which began erupting this week for the first time in decades. River of Fire is attracting everyone from photographers to painters to kids.
It's pretty amazing.
Hawaii's Mauna Loa, the world's largest active volcano, has been putting on a show since it began erupting this week for the first time since 1984. Crowds are flocking to the volcano, setting up chairs or sitting in the trunk of their vehicles to witness this spectacular scene. The lava, which is far enough away for onlookers to watch safely, is some 3 miles away from the highway, and Hawaii's emergency management agency said there are no signs of spewing red lava will threaten populated areas. And last time Mauna Loa erupted, nearly 40 years ago, lava came within 5 miles of the island's largest city.
It's just pretty amazing that we get to see it in our lifetime. Not many people have, and it's just spectacular to see Mauna Loa, longest mountain in the world, to finally erupt and Pele doing her magic. So it's pretty spectacular. Knowing the history and friends and family on the island, it's just pretty special to have this eruption. We're just glad it's in this vicinity and not affecting any communities.
The scary thing is lava flows from Mauna Loa can reach any side of the island, and she is a massive volcano. But it's a humbling experience to get to see, a once in a lifetime potentially opportunity to see how long this eruption lasts, and if there's another one, who knows when that will be.
Well, Chile is on the alert as the Villarrica volcano lit up the sky with lava early this morning. Footage shows the smoldering giant spewing gas from its snow-covered peak and a small pool of lava in its inside. According to the Geology and Mining Service, volcanic incandescence rose from between 80 meters to 220 meters from the crater at dawn. Interestingly, residents say that although they're prepared for a possible eruption, they're not scared. The Geology Agency's South Andes Volcanic Observatory has said small explosions of rocks and high temperatures around the crater are expected. Chile, which is situated on the so-called Pacific Rim of Fire, has the second largest chain of volcanoes in the world after Indonesia, including around 500 that are potentially active. When we come back after the break on The World Today. Of course, there will be more on weather conditions around the world, but you don't want to miss, the lighting of cities, bringing some cheer this Christmas season. Stay with us. Well, the other day was a landslide, but now drone images shot on Thursday are showing heavy flooding in the municipality of Canalina in southern Brazil. Torrential rain submerged houses and roads, and rescue boats have been trying to monitor the areas affected. Donations such as clothes, non-perishable food, and cleaning and hygiene materials to help families affected by the floods are being currently collected in the region for distribution to those affected. Flooding at this time of the year around Brazil is common and has caused devastation for decades. India, however, has observed its National Pollution Control Day, even as the country's capital remains engulfed in a thick blanket of smog and the air quality index remains poor, or very poor. The South Asian nation observes National Pollution Control Day annually, coinciding with the 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy when a gas leak from a Union Carbide pesticide plant killed at least 3,500 people in the central state. Delhi is the world's most polluted city, capital city, with its 20 million people severely affected by smoke on most winter days due to vehicular pollution, construction dust, and the burning of crop stubble in neighboring states. We're in Peru now, where protesters have set fire to the prosecutor's office and its property in the Ayacucho region after suspects involved in the murder of a young man were set free. Demonstrators were seen trespassing the building and throwing official documents outside its windows. They also set fire to documents in office chairs outside the place. Police tried to repel them using tear gas. According to local media, protesters also attacked the local police station, injuring at least 5 people, 4 of them workers at the prosecutor's office and 1 protester. An 18-year-old student was allegedly murdered by schoolmates in the town of Ponta. One of the alleged participants in the murder confessed to the crime, and the Peruvian National Police managed to arrest 2 of the 3 suspects, but they were released by the prosecutor's office. In the meantime, the Peruvian Congress has approved a motion initiated by opposition lawmakers to start impeachment proceedings against President Pedro Castillo. It's a third formal attempt to oust the leftist leader since he took office last year. With 73 votes in favor, 32 against, and 6 abstentions, Congress approved the process and summoned Castillo to respond to accusations of constitutional breaches on December 7. Earlier, a high-level mission of the Organization of American States recommended a political truce between Peru's executive and legislative branches as it delivered its preliminary report on a visit to the Andean country in late November. Now, to oust the president, the votes of 87 of the 130 members of Congress are needed, a number Peru's right-wing opposition parties are hoping to reach. To Australia now, a former high school teacher who was subject of the hit podcast The Teacher's Pet has been sentenced to 24 years in jail for murdering his wife 40 years ago. A case that has gripped the nation. The cold case against Christopher Dawson was reopened after the 2018 podcast put pressure on the police to revisit their investigation into charges the prosecutors had previously dismissed, citing a lack of evidence. Dawson will be eligible for parole in 2040, and he will be 92 years old.
In any event, as the history of this case makes plain, Mr. Dawson has enjoyed, until his arrest, 36 years in the community unimpeded by the taint of a conviction for killing his wife, or by any punishment for doing so. In a practical sense, his denial of responsibility for that crime has benefited him in obvious ways. Mr. Dawson is not old by contemporary standards, but the reality is that he will not live to reach the end of his non-parole period, or will alternatively, by reason of his deteriorating cognitive condition and physical capacity.
And reactions and speculations have been rife about South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa and his future at the helm of affairs after a panel report found preliminary evidence he may have committed serious misconduct. Inquiry centers on the alleged theft of millions of dollars of cash from the millionaire president's Pala game farm in 2020, which came to light in June and has been dubbed the Farmgate scandal. The theft has raised questions about how Ramaphosa came to power on the promise to fight graft to acquire the money and whether he declared it. The president has denied any wrongdoing and has not been charged with any crimes.
He steps down or he gets... I really wouldn't think that would be a bad idea because he knew that he was doing something wrong and all of that.
If the law needs to take its course, it should. Yes, it should. Like anybody else, justice must be served at the end of the day.
Crime is crime, but then I've never been one of those who believes that our leaders should be impeached or something. Maybe a disciplinary action or something, but to be incarcerated or something is not what I agree with. But corruption is still corruption, crime is crime. He has to answer for it.
The big lines are already drawn. Like we've known the factions within the ANC, we've known there have been people within the movement themselves who have been, questioning all this conduct and everything. And this is the right opportunity for them to raise their voices louder than before. But also, I believe Cyril Ramaphosa has got quite a strong faction and backing behind him. So it will be a tug of war, but which is definitely, I think, he's going to win.
I think it's a very troubling moment for our government as well as for the governing party. And I hope we're going to bring all efforts to bear to assure the people of South Africa and of the continent that we respect the Constitution of South Africa as well as the rule of law.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And we're at that time of the year again. And get used to it. We'll be talking about Christmas until the end of the year. This time we're in Greece, in the capital city, Athens, which held a colorful Christmas tree lighting ceremony, joined by mayors from around the world. In a show of unity, Athens Mayor Kostas Baikonis, along with visiting mayors from Europe, South America, and the United States, lit the 21-meter-high fir tree embellished with 40,000 LED lights in Syntagma Square across from the country's parliament building. The mayor says the municipality has decorated 129 Athens neighborhoods this year with 120 kilometers worth of Christmas lights, replacing all the lights with energy-saving LED bulbs, which will cut down consumption, thus not requiring the city to skimp on festivities due to the energy crisis.
We have replaced all our Christmas lights with LEDs. So we are effectively able to save over 80%, meaning that we can enjoy Christmas without fears or concerns. This is a difficult time. There's a war on our continent. We need to send a message, a strong message from Athens to the world that light will prevail over darkness, a message of solidarity, a message of love, and a message of peace.
Happy holidays!
Intriguing, isn't it? Well, if you're not in the mood for Christmas, these window displays should put you in the mood. Those stores are in New York, and they're sure to make you feel Christmas with the display of creativity these holidays. This year, Elton John held Saks Fifth Avenue revealed 6 windows inspired by the theme of heartwarming holiday gifts from years past, with a partnership with the Elton John AIDS Foundation. The department store donated $1 million to the EJAF. Luxury retailer Bergdorf Goodman is celebrating the season with the message, magic in the making. Windows feature the inner workings and imagination that goes into creating that they find truly special. Macy's is spreading joy with a Give Love theme. A store's display features interactive windows, bears dressed in knit sweaters, and plaid wearing foxes tucked in bed. Bloomingdale's display sparkled with disco balls, ice skaters, and colorful video display. They are really beautiful, aren't they? Well, words of the wise, Christmas season is when you spend the most, so be careful out there. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.